I really hate to do this to you. I swore to myself that I would not be talking about this on the show. But the last few weeks, the entire world, it seems, is caught up in this hysteria about this virus. And we have to talk about it, unfortunately. Welcome back to another episode of the Faces of ROCOR. This is the third part in the former 3-part and now 4-part series called Strength and Weakness, the story of Father Nektariy, the abbot of Holy Trinity Monastery in Mexico City. In the last episode, I told you that this would be the finale, and that this episode would discuss the question, where does Father Nektariy get the strength to do what he does? But then everything changed. I know 2 people who are infected by this virus. And I swore to myself that it wouldn't happen to me. In fact, in part 1 of this series, I told you about that. Everyone kept telling me, it's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you, you're going to get it. And I said, no, it's not going to happen. And then it did. I'm talking, of course, about the Father Nektariy syndrome. That's the name that it is commonly referred to as in the Fund for Assistance. What are some of the symptoms of this syndrome? First of all, you stay up way too late. You start to live on coffee because you can't sleep. And the reason you can't sleep is because you're constantly in a state of panic. You worry. Will you be able to do or say anything to make a difference, to get people to understand why your help is so important for Father Nektariy? And then immediately after that, you slap yourself. You realize that he gets his strength from the Lord. His strength is in his weakness. He's going to be fine. And you calm down a little bit. But then you start to panic again because you're thinking about, he's working 2 full-time jobs. This man sleeps 3 hours a night. At some point, sooner or later, he's going to burn out and have a heart attack. And you sit here and you think, goodness gracious, why is this man burning out and spending so much time working 2 jobs when he should be at the monastery? And you start asking yourself these crazy questions. You say, well, would we allow Metropolitan Laurus, for example, the abbot of Holy Trinity Monastery in Jordanville, to work 2 jobs? Of course not. That's crazy. Nobody would even think about doing that. And then you calm down. You calm down because you listen to Father Nektariy's interview. And his words start to have a very deep impact on you. And you start to cry. Because you realize that even though you're trying to help him, you need his help more than he needs yours. But then the next day, you wake up and you feel inspired. And you feel like, I can do this. I can finally talk about this. You sit down in front of the camera, you open your mouth, and you freeze. You don't know what to say. You start thinking, who am I? Who are you? Who am I to say anything about Father Nektariy? I'm such a sinful, sinful person. And then your phone goes off. And it's a text message from Father Nektariy. And in just a few brief words, he reminds you of something that is so very important. It's as if he's saying, it's okay, my son. You are sinful, The Lord died for your sins. You'll be okay. Just put one foot in front of the other and pray. And be quiet. But I don't know how to do that. A lot of people don't know how to do that. But in His infinite mercy, God sends us His divine grace that fulfills and makes perfect all weaknesses. With His divine grace, we are able to become citizens of heaven. And you realize that there are people in this world who choose to do exactly that, become citizens of heaven. And they do that by being quiet, through prayer, through silent prayer. One of those people was Metropolitan Laurus, the fifth Metropolitan, or first hierarch of the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. March 16th will be the 12th anniversary of his repose. And as you know, he had an enormous impact on Father Nektariy and the monks at Holy Trinity Monastery in Mexico City. I'd like to share a story with you about Metropolitan Laurus and how he left Father Nektariy an example of how to pray.
I served in Jordanville with Vladika Laur. He ordained me. When I was ordained hierodeacon, I had to serve 40 days in a row. It was about 11 hours every day. And then on the 40th day, I was ordained a hieromonk, so another 40 days. And I was also studying at the seminary, and I was working at the library in book restoration. So it was a nightmare for me.
I'd like to interrupt Father Nektariy for just one moment to point out something very interesting to you. What you just heard is the only time in the entire interview that Father Nektariy actually complains. And even in this instance, he's talking about something that happened many years ago. Think about that while you watch the rest of the clip. Father Nektariy just complained that he doesn't have enough sleep and he has to work and serve too many hours of the day. It's too grueling. This is a man who now sleeps about 3 hours a night.
I had no time to eat, I had no time to sleep, I had no time to do homework, I had no time to study. I was very, very, very weak. But every time in the morning, at 3 in the morning, I ran into the church. I was the only one, and I had to set up everything to be ready, because at 4 we started the service. But right at 4:15, I heard some noise. And at the beginning I was a bit scared, because the monastery was very dark. I was alone in the main church, in the Catholicon, and I was a bit worried that who will be inside the church. But then one day I took the cross in holy water, and I said, okay, if this is the evil one, I will have to confront him and chase him away from church. Now I am a hieromonk. But then when I go out of the iconostasis of the altar, I see it was Vladika Laur. so he didn't notice me. And then I realized that this noise that I had been hearing for the past 40 days, it was the Metropolitan of the church abroad who was there, first in church, at 4:15 in the morning. The monks started coming to church after 5:30, and the seminarians 6:30, around that time. But the Metropolitan Laurus, he will come at 4:15 just to be there, standing up with his prayer rope and praying, crossing himself, doing poklon. Such a humble man, a man of prayer. So, with these two Metropolitans that I've known in the church abroad, how could I complain about my life? I wouldn't. It has been wonderful to have this experience. And I don't remember a single day that I have not thought about how am I going to pay tomorrow. But at the same time, I remember Vladika Laurus' words when he said, "You have our prayers."
The worst part of the Father Nektariy syndrome is that even after that, you still sit there and wonder, you think they got it? Do you think enough people will care? And then you remember Anne. Anne is a woman from Australia. I've never met her in my life. But she reached out to the Fund for Assistance recently. And she said, we need to do more for Father Nektariy. She said, this is ridiculous. And Anne wanted to know what it's going to take for Father Nektariy to quit both of his jobs. One of the jobs was bringing in approximately $1,000 a month in income for Father Nektariy. Anne said, here's $12,000. What else can we do? She took care of that for a year. And so it seems that the only way to heal the Father Nektariy syndrome is to infect more people. I know that there will be about 1,000 people that will watch this episode. Think about this. If only 200 of us, give $20 a month, Father Nektariy will be able to quit both of his jobs. And then Father Nektariy will be able to be at the morning liturgy like Metropolitan Laurus. Because right now he's up at the crack of dawn. But he can't make it to early morning liturgy. He has to be at work. Think about that. So on Vladika Laurus's 12th anniversary, you have an opportunity to be the answer to his prayers, because I believe in my heart that Vladika Laurus is still praying for Father Nektariy and the Brotherhood. The choice is yours. Will you be the answer to Vladika's prayers? Will you make it possible for Father Nektariy to once and for all quit those jobs and do what he does best? Because there is nothing worse than wasting a good monk. Father Nektariy should not be working 2 full-time jobs at a hospital. He could have his own practice in the monastery. Think about that. Think about how many people he's helping now with virtually no time. Could you imagine, just imagine for one moment, if we could pick up the phone and say, Father, put in your 2 weeks notice. You're done. You just pray, and we will pay. You can do that. People like Anne have already paved the way. And that's what's so cool about the Fund for Assistance. You see, Father Nektariy never asked for that. He specifically said he wants money to help more people, to help the mission. And I think we've raised about $70,000. You donated about $70,000 at this point. And on top of that, people like Anne, like you, are coming out and saying, let's do more. That's awesome. That's the power that you have as donors in the Fund for Assistance. So please, right now, go to our website, make a donation, and help Father Nektariy. Thank you so much for watching this show. I promised the next episode will actually be the finale. And the answer that Father Nektariy gives to the question, where do you get your strength, is absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. God bless you.